This is TJ Brady, and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
Yes, indeed. There's a Dodger game going on, fellas, and I'm recording a show. That's how dedicated I am to this stuff, because I love the Dodgers, but I also love recording with people, and especially veterans. And so I'm going to get out of the way because Tom Coyle is the producer and co-host for the show, and Tommy set this up. So, Tom, if you would, tell us why we're talking to TJ.
Well, we're talking to TJ because, I'll tell you what's so impressive is just so many amazing people I'm privileged to have met or crossed paths with in my life, and TJ is one of them. We go back. TJ was actually my team leader at West Point when he was a sophomore. For those who've not experienced the military academy, he was the guy whose job was to make sure I knew which way was up, type of thing. And so we were a year apart at West Point. So he was the one who helped bring me along, and we actually reconnected. A few years ago. I'm losing track of the time there, but
I think it was 2015, Tom, because I remember I was on Narcos when
that's
we
right.
Connected. Yeah,
and giving you a tip of just some of the cool things. He was an Army veteran, and you kind of and I'll let you tell your story, how you basically found your way into Hollywood and the job you were doing that sort of actually led you to writing and where you are. And that's kind of the cool thing, is it just how you've been able to have the career you've had. You've been kind enough where I've kind of written some things here and there and offered as a writer some critiques of my work, which I greatly appreciate that, taking the time to do that given your busy schedule. So with that, TJ, tell us, I touched on it, veteran business, writing for Hollywood. Tell us the story.
All right. Well, it's a long story, but like Tom said, I went to West Point where we crossed paths, and if there's anything wrong with Mr. Tom Coyle, you could probably blame back to me and some shortcoming I had as his team leader back when I was a sophomore there. But, I'm actually pretty proud and happy with the way he turned out and all the things he has done since. Graduated West Point, went on to serve as an armor officer, which is tanks, for those who don't know, out in Fort Carson, Colorado. And that was in 1996. Served as a platoon leader, served on staff jobs from S1 to the S3 shop, served as a company XO before finally finishing up and leaving the Army in early 2001. At that time, I knew I wanted to be a writer. I was writing all through my time in the Army. It was before 9/11, so it was a peaceful time. Relatively, there was Bosnia, there was Kosovo and things like that, but being in tanks, and not deployed in Germany, my unit didn't deploy to those things. So compared to others who have gone before and after me, I feel very, very easy Army service career. But I loved it and got to know a lot of amazing characters and do a lot of things that I never would have gotten to do had I not served. But all through that time I was writing, whether it was poetry, short stories. I tried my hand at scripts before I knew formats for scripts. It was a complete mess, but I'd write these little film scripts, and I just knew that somehow, some way, that's what I wanted to do with my life. But I also know when you're getting out of the Army and haven't really done anything in your service, they're not lining to give bills. So I thought, okay, I'll get a job that'll get me to New York, because I'm from upstate New York, and I knew that there was a literary business in New York. I got a sales job for a lighting company that got me to the New York area. And as soon as I got there it was basically the summer of 2001, I started taking writing courses. One of them was a screenwriting course, and that's kind of where the gong went off. And I was like, I love movies, I love TV, I love writing. If I can bring them all together, this is what I want to do. 9/11 occurred right in front of my face. I wasn't in any danger, but I was close enough to see the burning, see people jump out of the buildings with my own eyes. And, like I said, I was never in any danger, but that day really catalyzed the desire. I said, 10,000 people or however many people went to work today with a dream, and they're never going to get to fulfill that dream. So if I'm really serious about this, I need to just really go for it. And so my lighting sales job had me on the road a lot. I was in hotel rooms a lot, and I was just writing, learning the craft, learning the basic format, watching a ton of movies, reading a ton of scripts, and writing. That's really the key if you want to be a writer. You got to write. And let's see, man, it was a couple years of that. That was 2001. And I met my current wife in 2002, and she was like, well, if you're really serious about this, you know, you're selling lights, you're doing all this stuff that I know that you're not that passionate about. If you're passionate about writing and writing for TV and film, we should probably go to LA. I was like, yeah. But I knew nobody in LA. Didn't know what I was going to do in LA. So I just waited for the opportunity for my company to transfer me there. When a sales job opened up in LA, I was like, oh, I want to do it. And I came out here, and that was 2004. And I just kept writing and selling lights and writing and selling lights and writing and selling lights until I got a lucky break, which I can get into if you want, and got hired on my first writing staff job in 2008. So it was more than 7 years after I left the Army. You know, it's and be short for some, but I didn't stop. I didn't quit. I didn't give up. And I had a lot of validation along the way from other writers and from writing competitions, and just my own sense of taste and my, in my taste and believe my work ethic. And the talent comes after a while. It's like, if you keep doing push-ups and pull-ups for a while, after a while, you're really good at push-ups and pull-ups. So,
all right, let me jump in here and ask a couple questions, because I don't want to go through the whole timeline. I want to back and determine a couple of points where you're making decisions. So you're messing around with different formats of writing, poetry, some screenwriting, but you got on screenwriting somehow, and that stuck. Talk about what that process or what that moment was like.
The moment was a combination of a few things. I mean, who doesn't, right? It's like a cliche thing everybody puts on their dating profile, like movies. Like, who doesn't? So I did, but I was always quoting movies, and when my buddies and I in the Army all liked this movie Swingers, a Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn movie that was really well done, a bunch of talking. And then when I got out at the lighting company, I fell in with a group of people who were all really into the same movie as well. And then I was in a bookstore just browsing around, and I saw the bound hard copy book script for Swingers. So I just bought it and sent it to all my friends, both Army, non-Army, whatever. And I took a look at it and read it, and I said, I think I could do this. And then, so that led me to take a screenwriter course, because I was taking, in New York City, they have these little yellow kiosks of like you can get a newspaper. There's one for Gotham Writers Workshop, and in there you could take all sorts of writing courses. And so I was looking at that and taking some, and one was Screenwriting 101, literally Screenwriting 101. And a teacher, his name was Jason Greif, and when he would read my stuff early on, he'd write little things like, "You have a real talent for this. Keep it up." He could have written that on everybody's paper. I don't know, but it took to heart, and I used it for the fuel I needed to, a lot of scripts, they don't see the light of day, that were freaking terrible. But again, it's when you're those reps early on, it's really important. So the combination of sort of stumbling upon a written screenplay, looking at it, and just seeing to take that course was for me.
Hey, TJ, the connection is really bad right now. And you probably can't tell on your end, but it's coming through. Your video is spotty and your voice is spotty. So let's try a little longer. And if it doesn't improve, let's just scrub and come back, because I want this to sound great for you, because your story is fantastic. So let's see how it goes the next few minutes.
Looking at the connection here.
Yeah, and
I was at a place with Wi-Fi and everything. What a bummer.
that windstorm that came through Southern California probably has blown through a bunch of things. Just how comms are when the weather's bad. So
yeah,
let's just see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back. So you take the course. The guy says, "Hey, you got a real knack." You talked about writing. One of the other things that we know about screenwriting from having people on the show that do this is, like you said, you have to read. So you know that on page 4, this element should be there, or at least by design, not be there. Did you know that going in, that like the whole format, the 88 pages for you, a page a minute? Did you know any of that stuff going in?
I knew nothing. I literally knew zero. And that's why I always tell everybody who asks me for advice, take a screenwriting course. It's a safe place to ask questions like that. There are so many things you don't know. And also, if you just ask other people, there's a lot of like know-it-alls out in the screenwriting world who are like, you never do. And you read professional good scripts all the time, and people are doing the things that these know-it-alls tell you never to do. There are a lot of rules to screenwriting, but there are a lot of rules you could play with and be loose with as well. And you learn that by reading their professionals. So
yeah, you're right. And again, if you have to know the rules so that you can break them, and we have a guy we have a guy on our show named Jeff Calhoun who's a script doctor, and he teaches people how to write, and he's written a book. And when you read it, it's not full of no's and you can'ts. It's full of, here's what the norm is, and you can build off of this, but understand what a high concept is, understand what low concept is. You walk in and you get a job, and you're saying kind of lucky. Actually, on Monday we had Tony Toast on. I don't know if you know Tony's work at all, but he got hired to write for Longmire, and then ended up taking over the whole thing because he grew up in that world. And he's like, I was exceptionally lucky. He was exceptionally prepared. He's got a PhD in poetry. He knew story, but it sounds like you kind of got your PhD on the road being a lighting salesman.
I did. I liken my journey. There are some people in my business who got MFAs in screenwriting, film school, got MFAs in playwriting from Juilliard. If I were a musician, there's the classically trained Juilliard musician, and then there's somebody who's in a garage band. I'm the garage band. That's how I came up. I like to think of myself not even close in terms of talent, but kind of as like the Dave Grohl of screenwriting, who just sort of got behind a drum kit and picked up a guitar and taught himself how to play and managed to work out a really good career for himself, just, without ever formal.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Let's kink this thing. Hold on. Let me add. Hey, TJ.
Yeah.
Let's do this when there's a better signal. Yeah, it's all right. The signal's bad enough that it's not going to come through how you want it and how I want it to go. So let's just find a time when
if there's another day, it's possible. I'm happy to do it. I'm sorry that this is happening.
What can we do? It's just what it is. It's not anybody's fault. It's just, again, the Santa Anas, I'm sure, contribute to all this stuff. By the way, Michael Broderick says hi and says that you're a good dude.
Oh, I love Michael. Great guy.
Yeah.
Great
he's
guy.
A friend of the show.
He's done a lot for veterans out here. He really has. He's a great
boy.
guy.
Yeah. Let me just say this stuff to the camera, and then we'll do the admin stuff in the back end. Hey, everybody. Just with the signal and with wind and fire and everything else, it seems like it's going to be too bouncy on the signal to have a show reliably. We'll just reschedule with TJ and have him back on so that you guys can really hear the whole story. And so we'll just look for him in in the near future. We'll get it booked and get it going forward. And thanks everybody for listening. Sometimes these things don't work out, but what we do is we persevere, we keep going, and you guys will see and hear from us tomorrow, and we'll keep on going. All right.